Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second edition of the low spender perspective of building a rally keep. I'm Ram with VIG, and in this video, we will talk about the importance of the team, or in Evany terms, the alliance that you're part of. So before we get to that, I would firstly like to thank everyone for your support for the previous video, from your likes, comments, and comments on Discord. Having a good feedback helps us understand what kind of content you guys like, and we can try and accommodate for that. So thanks for all your feedback. So let's get into this. The reason I wanted to sort of discuss this topic or the importance of the team or alliance is that as a low spender, right, you don't want to be investing your time and money. And I believe it applies for everyone across the board, but more so for low spender, because you're going to be putting, a lot of time, effort, and money into the game. And, if you're not in an alliance where you can kind of keep progressing, keep improving, be a top team in the game, you wouldn't have that satisfaction, or you wouldn't feel like you're getting a good return on the investment that you've made, right? So that's kind of why I figured I'll start with this one, because if you're a player that's just starting the game, on a new server, on a new alliance, you might want to kind of have this idea or this information up front so you can decide whether or not you want to invest there. Because once you're invested, it becomes hard to leave and things like that. So I figured this would be a good starting point for the series. So, all right. So on the last video, there was already a comment from a user that was alluding to the fact that even if this video is from a low coiner perspective, the alliance that I'm in has a lot of big spenders in it, right? And that is absolutely true. There is no denying the fact that Evany is a pay-to-win game, right? So, and as a low spender, you need to be in an alliance where you've got other people that are spending to kind of, balance the team out. Because if you are in an alliance that just coins low compared to everyone else, you're not going to be able to make up for the difference in buffs that you get from coining, right? So yeah, you need to try and sort of find yourself in an alliance where I'd say there are at least 3 to 4 people, if not more, that do a full cake every event. And a full cake is basically, cake level 10, and that basically means $2,000 retail, or less if you're using Aptoide, as I mentioned in my previous video. So yeah, Evany is just pushing more and more pay, buffs for payment, and that's just gonna keep increasing the gap between coiners and even big coiners and those who sort of coin less. So at that kind of gaming situation, your alliance becomes very much important, right? If you're in an alliance where there aren't enough big coiners, then you're not going to progress much in the game. That's the sad reality of it. This game is very much team oriented, because as people grow, you get bigger in size, and it's going to be hard to sort of knock down a 30 build, 25 build player just from solos, right? So you're going to have to rally them, and especially if you're going up against a team that is a well-oiled machine, and they start reinforcing and everything, you're not going to be able to do anything by soloing, no matter how big buffs you have. If a keep has reinforcements in it, a good quality reinforcements, good amount of reinforcements, even if you're hitting with 4,500% buffs against a keep that has 1,500% buffs, you're not going to do much because the reins change the game a lot. So yeah, being in an alliance is a very important part of the game. So other than the coining aspect, I'd say you'd need to look at being in the biggest alliance on your server. As a matter of fact, I will go as far as to say it should only be one big alliance on your server, because if not, you're always going to be competing with other alliances on your server, right? For bosses, for events, and things like that. Like for example, let's look at Ymir's, where you get a whole bunch of resources from Ymir's. So if the alliance power is sort of equally split, right, you're gonna be sort of neck to neck with bosses. You're gonna be fighting with each other for who gets to kill more bosses, and speeding to bosses, and a lot of other things like that, which are just kind of nasty, and it just doesn't work in the long run. And being the only big alliance on your server also means that all the PvP players are on your one alliance. So you can compete very well in a PvP setup as well. And as a low spender, you're going to get a lot more resources and speed ups and gold from, being in the only big alliance on your server. And if that's not the case, then you're going to be missing out on a lot of stuff that you would get without paying, right? And I believe that most people, watching this video are PvP oriented. I mean, it is the most exciting aspect of the game for me. And in the grand scheme of things, PvP is basically where you get, all your good rewards from, like for instance, Shalons or Austerlitz, and even All Stars. So yeah, all of your major rewards are basically going to be coming from your PvP in the game and not bossing. But regardless, as a low spender, bosses are very much important for your growth. You need to be in an alliance that has boss rallies being run 24/7, because if not, you're just gonna be losing out a lot more stuff that you can get without paying for it. And the next thing I would say is that the top spender on your alliance, or the biggest player in your alliance, uh, needs to be skilled, in the sense of needs to be a quick player that can do stuff quickly, and should have a working knowledge, a good knowledge of the battle mechanics of the game. This is because at the end of the day, your biggest player, is almost always going to be your rally setter, because they'll have the higher buffs, they'll have the larger rally cap, etc. And if they aren't knowledgeable about the game, and if they aren't quick, then it makes things harder, right, for the alliance as a whole. If they don't have a good knowledge of the mechanics of the game, that can be worked around if they don't have a big ego and they're willing to let someone else, run things, like call out what rallies to set during battlefields, and things like that. There is a workaround that, but this is very important, because if your setter doesn't understand the mechanics and they won't let anyone else help them, they'll probably end up setting a whole bunch of rallies that will just plat on the enemy team, and you won't be efficient. Your entire team will run out of troops because they keep splatting, and that kind of, it's not a fun way to play the game, is it? So you'd need to kind of make sure that the setter in your alliance, or the biggest player, whichever, mainly the setter, has a good knowledge of the game, or at least doesn't have a big ego that they'll let other people that do have the game knowledge kind of drive things in the alliance and in battlefields. So that is something. And then there are other advantages of being on a big team. So for instance, you can get hand me down subs. So right, I have epic Japan subs, epic Russian subs. You can get as a low spender, chances of you getting the subs yourself from the betting event on the subsidy, they're quite low, right? So if I just go in here, and obviously this is going to depend from server to server, but let's say an Epic Japan that's got 120k bets on it, right? So as a low spender, chances of you winning that sub are very less, and we are still 5 days to go within the event, so that's just going to go up anyway. So being in a big alliance, being in the biggest alliance, what happens is people eventually run out of slots, right? You only have so many sub slots. You can have a max of 10 or 11 subs, and once you hit that number, that's it. You can't have any more subs. So they are going to donate those subs to people on the rally team. I know there is the subsidy upgrade option now, but increasing the overall average buffs of your team helps more than having individual big players with upgraded subs. In VIG, for instance, all our big boys that win the subs, they just give it to the rally team over upgrading their own subs for this reason, because it just helps the team overall, right? It keeps the morale up. It just gives a little bit more buffs for people that aren't spending much, and yeah, it's just a good thing to do, as opposed to them keeping the keys and upgrading their own subs. So, and I'm sure a lot of other teams do the same thing. Because at the end of the day, the team comes before any individual player, right? This is more of a mentality thing for the alliance. That's what needs to be there. No single player is bigger than the team. And if this mentality is not present in the team, what will happen is the team is going to eventually split up and you go back to square one. And it also helps with a lot of other things, like, a good team, even a small team, can push players to get red wings and things, right? So red wings is basically unlocked when you get top 200 in BOC. When it's Ultimate War season, you just need to do it within the continent. And outside of that, it's going to be a lot harder because you need to be top 200 in all of Evany. So, yeah, this kind of helps you unlock your Wonder 3. And Wonder 3 will give you access to Nidhogg, which would then allow you to move your Fafnir over to a Siege Gen, right? Nidhogg is going to be your mounted dragon, and then you will get the opportunity to move Fafnir onto your Siege Gen. I've currently moved, I've put, Jawzar on my Cav Gen, and I've moved Fafnir already over to Siege. But I'm not too thrilled about Jawzar. I want to eventually swap it out for Nidhogg, and I'll be working towards that. But yeah, if you're in a good team, they will be able to choose one player and push you so you can get Nidhogg. On my C3 account, on my old account, I was a 3.9 bill K39 when I got Nidhogg, and that was just last season. So it's just a team thing, right? So the whole team decides, okay, that one person's going to get all of our points, or at least 90% of our points, and they just help push that person, do smaller rallies, help that player do the clears, allow them to keep all the buildings and things like that. And you could basically just, push your score up, and get Nidhogg. So that, again, it comes down to the team mentality and what a team is willing to do. Because in the long run, that will help the team out a lot, because, you just rotate and pick different players, and as you grow, you'll be able to do that for multiple players. And things like that, they just help, and they build the overall team up. Because as a low spender, if you aren't going to be spending a lot of money, and you aren't surrounded by people that are doing it, then your whole team just drops off on buffs, and it becomes harder and harder to compete. So that is something to keep in mind. And then for me personally, I am a very competitive player, and that is the main reason I moved to VIG. For the amount of time and money I spend on the game, and I know my spending is probably nothing compared to a lot of players out there, but still, for me, there is no point in spending on the game and, being at a mediocre level, because I'm not going to be able to progress. I'm not going to be able to get, the all-star dragons. I'm not going to be able to get better rewards from Shalons and things like that, because if the team is in there, then you're not going to be able to do all of that stuff. So yeah, that is kind of what made me move to VIG, and leave my old C3 server. And there are a lot of great alliances out there that constantly recruit players to improve their team. So if you feel like where you are at the moment doesn't align with where you want to be, don't be afraid to move. You can still maintain the friendships while you are in the same alliance, right? You don't necessarily have to be in the alliance to maintain the friendships. You can do that outside of the game as well. So I think that's something that I wanted to get out there. So look at the team where you are, decide if the team is going to grow, decide if you want to invest your time and money into building an account on that team. And if you don't feel like it, just look around. There are a lot of good teams out there. And I'm sure, if you talk to them, you will find out that, you know, it's not all that hard to move and, start over. And, at least you're building in a team that is going to go the distance. So, yeah, that's it for today's video. In the next video, I will go in detail about all the steps involved in transitioning a trap keep into a rally keep. So let me know what you think about this video in the comments section. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out the next one. Catch you all later. Bye, guys.